For Your Ears Only for the week of February 9th, I'm David Alpern.
I'm Catherine Herzog with this news quote. Freedom is not a given. It is something that we have to fight for and we have to stand for every day. That was Nadezhda Tolokonnikova, one of two veterans of Russia's punk protest group Pussy Riot, recently released after 2 years in prison at a New York benefit concert for Amnesty International. Back in Russia, other Pussy Riot members disowned the pair for no longer being radical enough. Now this.
Definitely concerns about the course. It's been interesting to see how it's developed and changed over the past few days, and I guess the big question is if it will continue to change.
The United States got off to a rough start in the inaugural team skating competition after Jeremy Abbott fell during his performance while attempting a quadruple jump.
Few in security-conscious Sochi, Russia last week could totally avoid the fear of a terrorist blast as the 2014 Winter Games got underway. But the worst distraction at the spectacular and emotional opening ceremony was the failure of one giant snowflake to join four others turning into Olympic rings. For Americans, the worst early news was probably the minor injury to snowboard champion Shaun White on a treacherous new slopestyle course on which he later decided not to compete. Another American later took gold there, while White sought to maintain his reign over the classic halfpipe. Also a team skating fall by American Jeremy Abbott.
Outside the Olympic venues, despite the unprecedented media constraint, there were complaints about incomplete hotel rooms, murky tap water, forced toilet sharing, and a perhaps fatal roundup of the town's wild dogs. Further afield, a Ukrainian man attempting to divert a jetliner to Sochi was overwhelmed and later described by authorities as merely drunk. To shift the focus back to sports, for Your Ears Only, we're joined by veteran skating commentator Kate Meehan. She also covers U.S. entertainment buzz for CelebrityDirtyLaundry.com and has views on last week's sad news about Philip Seymour Hoffman and Woody Allen. Kate, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with Jeremy Abbott's fall and the chances of U.S. male skaters generally.
You know, Jeremy Abbott, unfortunately, has a history of choking, for lack of a better word, when it matters the most. He's fantastic, and he's certainly capable, and if he can keep those nerves in check, he will be fine, and we will probably get a medal out of him. However, he gets rattled, and he gets nervous, and then he starts to overthink it, and exactly what we saw happen in the team competition is what unravels with him.
And the U.S. female skaters to watch, starting with one who arrives gold, Gracie Gold?
I think Gracie's going to do fantastic. She's had a couple rocky years as she kind of grew up and grew into her changing body. And what we've seen this year is a girl that's really ready. She looks good, she's solid, and she looks very composed. So I think Gracie has a great shot at doing really well and a really good shot at a medal as well.
What about Ashley Wagner?
Ashley is kind of like Jeremy. She's great. She's well-trained. She's got all of the components necessary, but she starts to think on her feet. And the minute you start to think when you're on the ice, that's when you fall. So, you know, if she can keep the nerves in check and kind of stay out of her head and just let her body do what it's supposed to do and what it automatically is trained to do, she'll be okay. And she also is medal-worthy.
And Paulina Edmonds.
Paulina is the new kid on the block, and don't look for great things here. She's hit or miss, and really this is about experience. The USFSA knows that we need younger skaters to have this kind of experience so that in 4 years, when it's their turn, they can do well. So this is her chance to kind of get her feet under her and to deal with the actual pressure of an Olympic Games.
Let's turn to ice dance. We understand that there's some controversy brewing there. What distinguishes it from classing pair skating?
You know, dance, the big difference is that the skaters are always intertwined. There's no big throw jumps. There's no side-by-side jumps. There's no completely overhead lifts. They're always intertwined and tangled. There's a lot of arm holds. There's a lot of lower lifts, you know, and spins and really complicated moves, but they're lower to the ice. And it's actually the hardest discipline because it's hard to be with your partner for 4.5 minutes intertwined like that and not trip and not fall and, you know, anticipate every hand motion and every catch and every grab and everything so that it looks good. It's really hard. But there is a scandal starting to brew just today, and that is that the U.S. team of Davis and White are fantastic. They are the reigning Olympic silver medalists coming in behind the Canadians back in Vancouver. And since then, they've pretty much dominated the field, which, I mean, to stay on top for 4 years is really amazing, and that is what they have done. However, with ice dance, there's always rumors of fixed judging. And going back 10 or 15 years, there were problems with Eastern judges, kind of doing the backdoor trading and figuring out who to push up in the standings. So it was an actual real problem. And what we're hearing today is that the Canadians are coming out and accusing the U.S. judge and the Russian judge for making a deal so that both of their skaters would be on the podium. And it's going to probably become a really big issue because they're basically accusing the U.S. of being shady and being bad sports and cheating. And that's not going to go away quietly, and it's not going to sit well.
Do you see any single American competitor coming to symbolize the nation's Olympic efforts this year? And if so, who?
I think in ice dance with Davis and White, they're fantastic, and they are probably our best clear-cut shot for gold because, unless they fall and have a catastrophe, they're going to get it. There doesn't need to be any dealing at all behind the scenes. They're going to get it. Other than that, I would say Gracie Gold. I think she very well may earn that gold medal.
Let's turn to your other area of expertise for the website CelebrityDirtyLaundry.com. After the heroin-related death of Oscar-winning actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, many fans blame the psychology and resources that come with success in the movies. Others say the reality is often the reverse. Addictive personalities are drawn to a calling where they can lose themselves in the work and in the characters other than themselves. What do you think?
I think there's a little bit of both of that in there. We see time and again some of the most fantastic artists, whether they're actors or comedians or whatever, they have a really messed up past and they're really messed up in their personal lives, and they kind of channel that all into the job that they do, and it comes out amazing.
What did you make of a now-grown daughter of actress Mia Farrow resurfacing her 20-year-old claim of sex abuse against her former husband Woody Allen, spotlighted by a New York Times op-ed columnist last week? Didn't a team of Yale experts conclude it was a false memory?
They did conclude that, and I think it all started with him being Woody being propped up at the Golden Globes and respected for the job that he does. And if you're a family that has personal issues, it's hard to swallow other people praising the person that you're at issue with. As far as Woody's daughter goes, what we've heard is while these were probably officially false memories, at least that's what the experts are saying, she doesn't know that. To her, they're very real because they've been in her brain, and whether they were implanted, whether they're real, we will never know that. But they're very real to her. So as she's dealing with them, however she chooses to, it feels very real to her, and you kind of can't take that away from her. I think it's become so public because the family swung at him, when he was praised recently, and it just snowballed from there.
At this point, though, can anything about Alan's private life sully his success as a filmmaker?
Apparently not, because if this hasn't done it, then what would?
Veteran skating commentator Kate Meehan also covers U.S. entertainment buzz for CelebrityDirtyLaundry.com.
Quote from the news, F the EU. That was Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland in a bugged phone conversation with Washington's ambassador to the Ukraine, welcoming possible United Nations efforts to reconcile the Moscow-leaning regime there and Western-oriented protesters who haven't got the support they'd like from the European Union.
Next, more on Hoffman and heroin for your ears only.